Hey everyone, my name is JJ Paulson. I'm a student entrepreneur and co-founder of the tech startup Perch. I want to invite you for coffee and conversation on our weekly series, Coffee Talks. We're here to showcase the heartbeat of Gainesville's entrepreneurial spirit. I want to give a quick thank you as this series is made possible by Afternoon Roasting and Seven Ashes Productions. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and let's explore the exciting world of entrepreneurship together. Now let's meet this week's guest. How are we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another Coffee Talks. I'm JJ Paulson, co-founder of Perch. And real quick, before we get into it, I want to give a thank you to Seven Ashes Productions and Afternoon Roastings for making these Coffee Talks possible. So real quick, today we're joined by the founding team at CourseLynx. I'm going to let them go about one by one introducing themselves. So Corey, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, my name is Corey Cumbus. I'm from New Smyrna Beach, Florida, and I'm a third-year business admin major at UF.
Awesome.
My name's Christian. I'm also from New Smyrna Beach, Florida, and I'm a fourth-year math major.
Awesome.
I'm Roshan. I'm from India, and I'm second-year CS.
Awesome. So why don't, you guys can trade off on this answer, one of you can take it, but give us a rundown as to what CourseLynx is.
Yeah, so CourseLynx is really the go-to platform for college students to connect, both in their courses and student organizations.
Okay, awesome. So what drew you to that idea? Give me a little bit of insight as to why you guys created CourseLynx.
Yeah, so during my freshman year and Christian's sophomore year, we had enrolled in the Big Idea competition and created this behemoth of a company that we weren't ready to implement or execute. So my sophomore year, I was looking at Christian, I said, let's solve a student problem, something that we can actually tackle. And from there, we just look within our own problems to see something that all students face at UF. And the one common thread was that everyone communicates digitally, and that platform was just not facilitating that communication effectively.
Mm-hmm. So what, specifically, what were the problems that you were facing as students that led you to develop it?
Yeah, so first off, all these GroupMe chats are moderated. So I've been banned several times just by moderators for nothing because they might assume I'm a bot. And with that leading into the next problem is a big problem, especially in the fall semester, is that there are bots that are from random scamming call centers type of deal, and they sell Drake and Taylor Swift concert tickets, and many students end up getting scammed, especially in the buying and selling football tickets chat. So. And then I'd say the last really big picture problem is it's just so unorganized, right? You have a calculus chat with 1,000 students all in just a big old group chat. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to find answers to questions. It's just a real mess.
Okay. So you came up with this idea. First, kind of pivoting to before CourseLynx, and I'd love to hear each of your responses to this. What got you guys into trying to actually be a student founder and build something?
Yeah, if you guys want to start.
I'll start. So ever since I was in middle school, I was always making apps and my cool projects and stuff. So I was always interested in doing something of my own. So when I met Corey and Christian, and I thought they were really passionate about what they were doing, and it was a problem I faced because I could never find GroupMes for my courses, and they were always just a bunch of bots and stuff. So I felt like this is something I can do, and I'm just passionate about building things, so yeah.
Okay.
And then for me, I've never wanted the typical 9-to-5. It's always been kind of a fear of mine. And throughout high school, I'd always tell my friends, my parents are so what do you want to do when you get older? Or what job do you want? I'd be I don't want a job. I want to be my own job, kind of. And it would always my parents would be oh no, you need a job. But I don't want to work my whole life for a company that I don't believe in, and I feel I'll believe in a company the most if I create it myself.
Totally.
Yeah, and my story is a little bit more drawn out. So I'm a first generation college student, and my dad owns a small waterfall business. He's built both residential and commercial projects all around. And I'd say after 5 or 6 summers working in Florida for 9+ hours in the sun, you get tired of that, right? So another thing is watching my dad run his business. It really made me passionate about building a business that is functional, is not a total mess. So yeah, it kind of drove me to want to build my own company successfully.
So is this all of all three of you guys' like first stint into actually running a business? Like Roshan, I know you mentioned that you've built apps in the past. I don't know if any of those were like revenue generating or if they were really just like passion projects.
For me, all of them were passion projects, but it was only with CourseLynx that it turned into an actual business type deal.
Okay. Okay.
Then I would say for me, it's my first like legitimate business that I'm like a main part of. My friend in high school during COVID, he started a lawn care business,
Right.
and I was like his go-to or second guy.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of insight into the difficulties of running a business through
Yeah.
him, but this is my first like own thing, I would say.
And then for me, I would say yes on my own, but I practically help my dad run the business because it's like him, his construction manager, me,
Yeah.
and then my friends as the workers. So yeah, I'd say I have a little bit of both.
Yeah, and then being, relatively new into Gainesville, I know you mentioned it's either, you guys are all either Roshan, what year are you?
I'm second.
Second year? Okay, cool. How has like Gainesville and Gainesville's ecosystem as a whole helped you guys or not helped you guys build this up?
Yeah. From my experience, I'd say the first year of building CourseLynx was pretty difficult. We felt like we were alone on it, writing the business plan in Marston, trying to get user feedback was really difficult. But I'd say once we got connected into the hatchery, started engaging in these competitions, went to the Gainesville Tech Week last week, that was really amazing.
Yeah.
I'd say since we've gotten involved with it, it's been an extreme net positive.
Okay.
It's just a matter of putting your head forward and getting into it.
Okay. Any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we would be half as far as we are without the resources that the school and the community has to offer us.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like we would have never met if not for UF.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, that's kind of pivoting into my next question. When I talk to specifically other business students, right? Like one of the biggest issues that they tell me about building something is they lack like the technical ability. And I've found that there's been somewhat of a disconnect specifically between the College of Engineering and the College of Business and the actual startup talent. Typically, the startups that are formed are either solely based in one college or the other. You guys are one of the first startups I've met that, similar to me and my co-founders dynamic, come from each of the schools individually. So how were you guys able to meet and kind of bridge that gap?
Yeah, we actually were going over this last night. It's pretty crazy. So the same night that I walked on my porch and told Christian, let's give this business plan competition another run, I went inside, sat down on my couch, and it was October 17th at 11:21 p.m., right? I sent a crazy long paragraph in the Society of Software Developers Discord chat because I was formerly computer science, right?
Oh, okay, nice.
And I hadn't touched Discord chat in a whole year and a half, but I just shot my shot in their projects and opportunities. And at 11:21, he was in my DM and he sent me all of his projects, all of his experience, and we met the next day, and the rest is history.
So what was your interest in the project then? Was it just, you wanted to get more experience in building apps, or was this a project that like you were particularly passionate about for some reason?
So for me, because it was my first semester when I saw that message, and I just wanted to get involved into doing more things.
Okay.
So I was just like, why not? And so I replied, and then we met, and then I really liked the passion about the project.
Okay.
And we started out with different ideas, and I wasn't really fan of those ideas. But then as we pivot into this one, I was like, yeah, this is the idea.
Yeah.
And then we just started.
I mean, any startup adherently goes through a ton of pivots, right? Like certain ideas will sound great, Friday night, and then Saturday morning you go over it again and you're like, why did we ever think that was a good idea?
We actually, halfway through our business plan, the first time we were writing it, or the second time, we realized we made a company that had no chance of making any money.
Yeah.
Like, we completely forgot to monetize it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a charity case. It was like we were going to lose money consistently. It was pretty funny. It was a 3 a.m. business plan audit. We were like, nope, this isn't going to work.
Those are the best business plan.
And another thing that's interesting about not only us meeting, but like how our team stayed together was we had started this, like I said, in the fall of 2022.
Right.
So like he said, he wasn't the biggest fan of those first ideas, so there really wasn't much for him to develop, right? So he kind of took a back seat. Not that he wasn't interested, but you're not going to spend your time developing an app that you're not really passionate about. So during the next spring of 2023, Christian and I had spent the time just writing the business plan, trying to create a new idea that really does have some value. And after that whole competition, we made another pivot, and that's where he finally came back into this picture the previous summer. So there was almost a whole year that he wasn't around, but once we had that idea, he was ready to come back and join. So I think that's interesting.
So his initial denial of the idea, did he, like Roshan, like, did you pitch what CourseLynx is today, or was it more like, I don't like that idea, I don't necessarily know what the pivot is, but that's not an idea I'm interested in?
I never pitched CourseLynx. It was their idea, but I was just like, I just wasn't working that much.
Okay.
I was just like, I don't know if this is gonna work or not.
Okay. So digging a little deeper into like CourseLynx itself, like, say I'm a student, right? And I don't want to go to GroupMe. I don't want to go to SparkNotes. I don't want to go to StudyEdge. So I go to CourseLynx. What is, like, kind of walk me through the process of being a student and wanting to use your site.
Right. So the main value of CourseLynx, especially as we expand to all courses, is that each semester you don't have to create a group chat and distribute it to the hundreds or potentially thousands of students in your class. So when you're to sign up, you verify with your UF email, and that lets you know you're only communicating with students, no more Taylor Swift and Drake concert tickets. So after that, you just go through and add your courses. And what's really great about having these pre-built course chats is that you don't have to worry about these conversations being divided into multiple channels, which oftentimes happens on GroupMe.
Yeah. Have you kind of like spoken to students and gotten like specific feedback as to what they like what do students really want out of CourseLynx?
I would say the first off, biggest is just no bots. Everyone's sick of the scamming tickets, the scamming concert tickets and things like that. And then the other two more niche problems that are a little bit kind of dispersed is organization. And then I'd say, also having student groups, like student organizations and things like that. That's one thing we really didn't consider in the beginning.
Right.
But as we've talked to students throughout the past 2 weeks, handing drinks out on campus, I'd say every other student or almost every student says that they really use GroupMe for student organization. So that's a pivot we're looking to make this week.
Yeah, and I mean that would give you guarantee use cases, right? Because if people are in student orgs, they have to be active. Whereas like a chat for B Finance, people probably aren't going to be active until it matters, which is around exam season. So that definitely could be a good way to get some positive testimonials. What are some challenges that you guys are facing right now? Because, being honest and realistic, trying to create a new GroupMe, that's not necessarily an easy task, right? Like people always try to create duplicates of some big app. There's always another Uber, there's always another Airbnb. Like, what are some challenges you're facing, and then how are you addressing them?
I'm talking my, lips off. I'll let them start and we can come down this
Right,
way.
I agree.
I'll say it's probably the chicken and egg problem. It is where to get users, you need users already.
Yep.
So that network effect has been the biggest problem because no one wants to use the app because no one already uses it.
Right.
So, and I would also say our timing for the launch was more, we were initially focusing on one course for our MVP to gather feedback. And we started at a little midway or early to midway through the semester, so all the GroupMes were already formed.
Yeah.
We thought that would work to our advantage. The students would already be in one place. We could just get them over. But since they're already formed, all the content's already on GroupMe. There's really no reason to leave in the middle of a semester and try out a new chat.
Yeah.
I'd say another thing about the chicken and egg problem, it's not only about people, but one thing we've kind of realized, so in business finance chat that I'm now banned from,
Nice.
That's 1,200 students in there, at least 1,200 members, probably 75% are actually students.
Right.
Regardless, call that 800 students, and I'd say only maybe 50 are actually having active conversations. So the real value of these group chats are the 50 or 40 students that are having these active conversations that the rest of the students just read.
Yeah.
So really, we've tried to refocus our critical mass to the supply side of content creators rather than just all the students that are viewing.
So have you guys tried being those 40 to 50 students that have those conversations on CourseLynx, whether that's because you don't necessarily want to build in bots to a site because then the conversations won't make sense, but going in potentially under different names
Yeah.
and having like those conversations yourselves?
Yeah, 100%. Not only that, but we have anonymous posting, replies, and chats as well. So that also gives us a way to kind of
Right.
post without. But
Okay,
also,
yeah.
he did do that as well. He made an account with a fake name, but also still helping students with notes and things like that for one of the CS classes.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So where, Roshan, because building an app specifically, because, I've seen it before. It's very impressive. Like building an app like that, typically just your everyday CS classes aren't going to set you up for that. So I know you said you have experience, building apps prior. What got you interested in app creating as a whole? Like what was the, okay, I want to do this and I want to get good at it moment?
I think I started when in middle school when my uncle gave me a book about Python programming.
Uh-huh.
And I started doing it and I just felt there was a thrill to doing it. Like every time I make a computer program of my own, there was some kind of like adrenaline rush that, oh, I made that. I made computer do it.
Yeah.
And I guess I started making small projects and eventually I just started learning about app development, and at that time it was like really cool to make apps and stuff. And then over time I just liked making apps and I made a bunch of apps of my own.
Yeah.
And so I just like doing it.
Yeah. So this question I'd love to hear from all three of you, and hopefully, the answers align somewhat. But a year from now, like where would you like CourseLynx to be? Kind of go like whichever order you
Yeah,
want.
okay, I'll start. So I'd say a great place for CourseLynx to be in a year is either finishing out consolidating the UF conversations and hopefully preparing to expand to other schools. I'd say that'd be a great place to be.
Yeah.
I would agree too. I hope in a year from now we can kind of prove our concept at UF, have like a good solid foundation to like go to other schools and say it works here, it'll work there, and then hopefully we can get some insight to how valuable our monetization plan will be. As we plan to sell the data students generate on the app. So if we have a full school, we'll be able to like extract like the maximum number of insights and really get a good idea of how valuable that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if CourseLynx becomes the de facto standard where everyone is like, oh, download CourseLynx, if you want to come to UF, if we could get that positioning, that would be great.
So talking more about like the monetization, what is the monetization strategy kind of like as of now? Obviously, step one is just building up your user base as much as you possibly can. Have you thought of, other avenues, like maybe you stem some types of like newsletters off of each classes where, you can send a weekly update on each class that kind of like goes over what would have been covered, I guess? Or you talked about data, potentially ads, like where's your guys' headed at in that regards?
I would say in the very beginning, our idea was native advertising, something that Reddit does, because it's still advertising, but it's a lot less intrusive.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can catch yourself accidentally clicking the post that's an ad. So that one's pretty simple. We've also discussed affiliate marketing with local businesses like Smoking Notes,
Totally.
Study Edge, trying to figure out ways to, make the synergy between our companies better. But I'd say the most interesting to me personally is, like Christian touched on, is the data, because one thing that I've been hearing a lot of is trying to look into the future, and one thing that I see being built out is the value of data every
Right.
single day, especially for colleges as well, because something that Christian had referenced was our Gator 1 IDs are just they are data mines, right? They're always creating data points as you're scanning to get into a building or things like that. UF learns about all those things. So the fact that UF is looking at different ways to find user data, it's very interesting to us. And one thing that we're really strong about being students ourselves is when you hear, oh, the app's going to be selling data, that sounds pretty, stark. You don't want to be on an app like that. But
Every app does.
our route with that is, rather than just selling schools raw data of students' activities, what we've seen is they're actually educational consulting firms who get this private data and then aggregate it to put it into charts, graphs, and create a whole report based on school sentiment or dropout rates, whatever the school's data point that they're trying to find. So I think the most success would be talking to the different key decision makers at colleges or even at the university level that are looking for specific insights, right? Like whether that's college sentiment, what do they think about our course structure, or even student success. One thing that's interesting is Some classes have different teachers each semester, so it'd be interesting is maybe seeing how the average student study time changes with different teachers, different things like that.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So last question to wrap things up, because I know we're getting to time, is if there was like one connection that could be made for you guys that would help with whatever, whether it's, building the user base, developing the app, things like that, like, and each of you can answer this question if you want, or if there's, one shared thread, that's fine too. Like, what is one connection that would really help with CourseLynx's growth?
I will go first. I don't think there is a connection that can really help us. It's right now the game is to just aggressively get users on it, and I don't really see maybe a connection that can help us with like marketing and advertising. Maybe that
Okay.
will help.
Yeah.
I would say I agree with the market, like as someone who's like very experienced and has done this before with
Right.
marketing, but also a bunch of like relatively smaller connections. Like we got to connect with clubs, we got to connect with Greek life, we got to connect with just organizations and people that influence students.
Right.
And then I would say for me, more on the monetization side, is talking to one of those key decision makers, maybe the dean of Warrington or the dean of a different college, just to see what their outlook would be for potentially buying a data report like this, what insights they're looking to see, because that would be a really good point to gauge whether that's, a way to take, a way to make money.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Cut it there. Sweet.
Thanks.